Bright winter versus bright spring. What are the differences and what are the similarities? So bright winter versus bright spring, and the first thing we need to understand here is that bright winter is located right at the edge of the transition to bright spring color palette and is standing one by one on the seasonal color chart. So we are naturally expecting these two seasons to exchange the colors naturally as if they were sister palettes. The bright winter color palette type is characterized by crystal and thundering colors in the overall look. Its portrayals are bold and dynamic and also profound. If you could imagine the art style of Cubism and Modernism that would ideally flow into one unity, which would in its course resemble the palette and characteristics of the bright winter. Often, women of this color type have a lot of highly contrasting and chromatically saturated colored things in their wardrobe, but most often they don't know how to mix and match them with each other. The bright spring color type is similar to the winter color types in terms of dynamics and contrast in the seasonal color analysis. If we compare the two color palettes, this is what we would see. The chromatic component is so obviously present in both palettes here. What is the difference between bright winter and bright spring? The undertone is cold in bright winter and warm in bright spring. In this image, we can see clearly how well the yellow colors differ here. The yellow on the winter color palette is lighter. It contains white conglomerations with high contrast, while on the other example, yellow flows into mustard yellows more. It's as if we took a train from Paris to Barcelona. We would observe the differences in tonalities and undertones. Contrast between bright winter versus bright spring. The contrast in both cases would be high. In the spring one might fluctuate between medium to high, in winter would pretty much be the same. However, as has already been mentioned before, the cold season, hence the color and temperature, has a higher probability to get higher rather than the warm one. The evidence of high contrast will be more noticeable in cool winter types, a bit more because the cold color has a higher potency organically. When you look at the spring type, you might be more confused as it could be more mild looking at the first sight rather than eye-striking. Can you look like a bright spring but actually be a winter? Julia Louis-Dreyfus has been previously typed as bright spring, and so has been Rachel Weisz. However, there are more nuances to that will prove that they are rather in between the bright winter and bright spring seasons, or maybe they might be even something else. Before we jump into analysis, we need to distinguish the attributes of each season as well. Bright winter color appearance. Our eyes would be bright blue, green, or icy hazel. Hair dark brown, almost black. Skin would be porcelain, light beige, pale olive. Examples of dark winter among the celebrities would be Jamie Alexander and Julia Goldani. Most often you'd be advised against two warm tones, orange, yellow, and more. But later we'll see how you can use those as well and work around them. The wardrobe of a bright winter should not be all gloomy, dark, which is more inherent for a dark winter. Let's see the bright winter example. In one of my previous videos, I have already discussed that one of the prototypes of bright winter will be the Snow White. As we know, the perfect cold porcelain light skin, crystal cold eyes, and very contrasting hair tone. This example is a perfect embodiment of Julia Goldani. There is no doubt that cold grey and pitch black colors look magnificent with the tone that she has. Even when she is tanned, her main color palettes don't really change. She is undeniably highly contrasted cold type with its cool undertones. Is she able to wear bright spring since she is a bright winter and they are on the verge of this transition? Yes, she definitely can. Bright spring colors and even calmer pastel colors usually work well on a background of a highly contrasting appearance. This aspect has been discussed already in the previous video about Kim Kardashian and her color palette as well. Please check it out. What is the other example of the bright winter? And that would be Jamie Alexander. The same as in the previous example, we can see the striking contrast right away. If you are a bright winter, it doesn't mean that you have to throw all the orange colored pieces of your wardrobe away. You might just keep it for the summer to hit on your skin. And then again, we can see that on the background of the pale color, she looks so much appealing, and the deep red fits her like a glove here. Rachel White has been previously typed as a bright spring. However, we can clearly see that rather a silver tone fits her complexion much better than the gold one. Can we conclude that she is the winter type? Well, not yet. In this example, we can see an obvious inclination towards the cold temperature rather than the warm one. This blue color fits her really well, even though there is a clear warm admixture in her eye color. This is where most of experts make a mistake, thinking that the color of the veins and the eyes admixtures play the most crucial role in determining the color palette, which is not correct. The makeup artist though got it right, and we see quite a cold rosy blush on her cheeks play well together with crystal blue earrings. This example speaks for itself. The comparison of bright crimson orange, which is a clear bright spring color, in comparison to the deep red, play a different role here. It just doesn't suit her as much as the later one. Usually this deep red and other intense colors as well would be more suitable for the deep dark winters rather than bright spring types. Are you still not convinced here? Look at this example. The bright orange is rather destructive to her appearance and rather than flattering, and that should be vice versa in this case. In this example, the stylist tried to put her in those spring colors. Still, it's not her best colors, and you can see it reflecting directly on her fair skin and her face. Another spring vibe here, and in the comparison with the deeper green, she definitely looks much better with calm, deep colors. One of the most majestic colors that normally all winter types thrive in is black, pitch black. Doesn't she look just magnificent in it? After these examples, I'd rather locate the actress in the winter category, leaning towards the deep winter type. Another great example of the off-the-charts category would be Julia Louis-Dreyfus, previously typed as bright spring as well. Let's see what is not quite right. The contrast is rather high, we can see that, which is good. Okay, we got it. Julia has warmish green, brown, dark eyes, and she looks well with a tan, doesn't she? So normally people would jump into the conclusion that she is a warm type. And since she has a high contrast, she might be bright spring here. Well, not really. We have already seen this mistake in the previous example when I mentioned it. In this example, we can see that silver fits her better. It has a much better contrast with her skin, while the golden tone eats her up a little bit. Taking into consideration rather bright spring colors, we can see that bright hot pink, which is rather cold tone, fits her well. This sometimes happens with all the in-transition types that could potentially wear other color palettes at certain times. Please check this information out in my previous video. But as for right now, we are leaning towards the cold type more. Black look undeniably good on her and complements well her natural contrast. Most often no one looks as good in black as winter types. Spring yellow has great contrast, but it just doesn't do any good for her. Just the same as in the example of the golden dress, it just doesn't fit right with the other warm attributes of her eyes, for example, or even the hair. In the comparison of two green color shades, one is spring green and the other one is deep winter green. We can see that the later one is undeniably her color. While in spring colors, she is able to rock when she has a bit of tan and her all complexion turns warmer, and then the colors unfold gradually in her natural beauty. However, her main colors remain deeply saturated. I would look at Julia as a transition type between deep winter and dark autumn versus spring, being able to wear both the contradictory bright colors occasionally as well as deep saturated ones. Bright spring color appearance. Eyes could be bright green, bright blue, hair could be dark blonde, golden with reddish pigmentation, skin peach porcelain, sometimes with freckles. Celebrity examples of vibrant spring would be Heather Graham. Needless to say that orange shade conglomeration fits really well, especially with her red pigmented light blonde hair. It's just a match here. I'm really not a fan of her cold and silver shades. I see her in warm colors rather, because that's what she actually naturally is. If with pale shades she needs more contrasting makeup to stand out more, then in her prime colors she needs nothing to improve. It looks good with her complexion and her eyes become actually brighter and even color enhanced. The chromatic attribute in the bright spring color palette is undeniably enhancing her contrast, doesn't it? It doesn't make her look odd or lost or eaten up. It's actually enhancing her appearance without any additional makeup, hair, or any other accessories and style manipulations. Does soft summer muted colors look good enough on her? No. To wear it comfortably, she definitely needs more tan and higher contrasting makeup to be able to wear it. Can she wear blue and black colors? Yes, she can, as Bright Spring still contains much on the color palette. Check it out. Navy blue serves as one of the most favored basic colors, as well as black. Higher contrasting appearances actually can rock these dark peach saturated colors. Obviously, in comparison to dark blue, the lighter, more chromatic blue fits better in this case. I hope this information was useful for you, and if you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe, put a like, and see you in the next episode.